We have more now on Donald Trump's campaign event last night on X. It was supposed to highlight his return to the social media platform that once seemed inseparable from his political brand. When he was president and X was called Twitter, Trump's posts were treated like breaking news. X owner Elon Musk hosted the event last night and made it clear he wanted to see Trump back in the White House.
I think it's a massive. I think we're in massive trouble, frankly, with the Kamala administration, and that's my honest opinion. And I think really it's essential that you win for the good of the country for this election. And I'm just stating my opinion.
Well, for more on the chat, Paul Waldman joins us now. He's a columnist at MSNBC, and he's in Washington, D.C. Paul, great to speak with you again.
Thank you.
So it's hard to know actually where to start on this because it was a 2-hour-long conversation that was delayed by 40 minutes because of technical issues. But I think what is particularly interesting about it is just the fact that, yes, Trump is back on Twitter, but this is also an appearance by Trump that we haven't seen a lot of. We haven't seen a lot of this man in this campaign stage. What did you make of that?
I think that if Trump winds up losing, this could be one of those emblematic moments of why it happened. It's true that we haven't seen him much lately. He's been sort of stepping back as so much of the attention has been focused on Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. But this is the kind of interview he does, with some rare exceptions. You have a place where the platform is run by somebody who has endorsed Trump and has said that he's going to give him millions and millions of dollars. It is a platform that, since Musk took over, has really devolved into a haven for far-right extremism and misinformation. And this is where Trump goes. And they have this kind of rambling 2-hour conversation with, frankly, two men, neither one of whom is particularly eloquent or articulate. And it just kind of rehashes all of the same Trump complaints. They spent a lot of time talking about immigration. They spent time complaining about Joe Biden. It was not the kind of thing that's really intended to reach out to undecided or independent voters. And this is really the core problem Trump has. And he has indicated this many times in things that he has said, that he doesn't think he needs to persuade anybody. He thinks he just needs to play to his base, get them excited and angry, and turn them out to the polls, and that's all he needs to do to win the election. But that's not really true. He does need to reach out to independent voters if he's going to win, but he seems to have either no understanding that that's necessary or no interest in doing it. And so you get events like this where somebody who is extremely friendly to him joins him for this just kind of rambling talk that doesn't really go anywhere and doesn't offer anyone who's not already voting for him some reason why they might want to.
Yeah, it seems like quite a contrast. When we saw Trump on that panel with the National Association of Black Journalists convention, where he was being grilled by journalists, this was not that. This wasn't really an interview. It was just a conversation between these two men. Do you think that we're going to see more of that then? He's going to be seeking out these friendlier voices to speak with?
Yeah, and that's what he's done for a long time. I mean, anyone who watched that National Association of Black Journalists event saw how kind of surly he gets when he's questioned by journalists. He really doesn't like it, and he gets a little bit angry. And he tends much more often to do interviews on places like Fox News or other conservative networks like Newsmax. He sometimes goes on right-wing podcasts, places where he knows he's just going to get friendly questions. And in this case, it wasn't really much questions. It's just sort of a back and forth conversation, lots of mutual praise between him and Musk. Those are the forums where he's much more comfortable. But of course, those are places where only people who already are voting for him are going to tune in. And so, you can say that Kamala Harris has not done any interviews since she became a candidate, with less than 2 weeks ago, I guess. And that's something you can criticize her for legitimately. One would hope that she would do more. But it's Trump's, I think, sort of comfort zone not to really be questioned too harshly. He feels like reporters don't really even have a right to ask him demanding questions. And when they do, he says things like, that was the most horrible question I've ever heard. It's basically, you don't have any right to question me. And so he's much happier to go into these forums where he can just sort of, issue the same kinds of attacks, go around and around on his old bugaboos. And this is, I think, really kind of indicative of where he is psychologically, is that, for instance, he's still angry that Joe Biden got out of the race. He was very comfortable running against Biden. He felt like he was going to win. All of his supporters felt like he was going to win. And now that things have changed, he just kind of can't let go of it. So he's going to keep talking about Biden and how terrible it is that Biden's not his opponent. He doesn't seem to have the ability to kind of adjust and offer a new argument to the public about what he's going to be doing and his opponent. I mean, of course, he has complaints about Kamala Harris too, and there's a lot of sort of personal insults and name calling, and that's always been his style. But I think that ever since 2016, when he won this unlikely victory for a lot of different reasons, the confluence of a lot of factors coming together, he managed to win in the Electoral College despite losing the popular vote. He has been convinced that the things that he did then are the key to success, and he never has to change the way he approaches it. And he was probably validated by the fact that he was ahead in the polls for a while Biden was in the race, but now he's behind in the polls. He doesn't seem to have any interest in changing the way he does things or the way he approaches the public and what he offers them in the rest of this race.
Paul, just in terms of Trump being critical of Kamala not doing an interview and of Biden dropping out of the race, we do have a clip from last night on that. So let's take a listen.
What I can tell you is this. We cannot have a Democrat. We cannot have her. She's incompetent. She's as bad as Biden in a different... Yeah. She hasn't done an interview since this whole scam started. And say what you want. This was a coup. This was a coup of a president of the United States. He didn't want to leave, and they said, we can do it the nice way or we can do it the hard way.
Paul, is he feeling the pressure? I mean, you mentioned the polls, but I don't know. Is he feeling the pressure from Kamala Harris and the momentum that her campaign has been building and very quickly?
I think so. And, there's a thing that happens in campaigns where once things start to go badly, it really builds on itself. And, people who support you start talking to the press about how you're doing everything wrong. And Trump in particular, he gets very resentful when he doesn't feel like he's getting anything other than absolute loyalty from the people around him. And so there's lots of stories that have been emerging in recent days about people inside the campaign and outside the campaign, supporters of his, who are saying that he has to do something different, that he's not focused. And that only makes him then more angry. And so it can be kind of a snowball that builds on itself. I don't know that Trump has the ability to kind of be nimble and change. And that's what campaigns need. Campaigns are very hectic. A lot of different things happen. New events come up. You have to be able to react to them. And Trump doesn't show a lot of ability to do that. He's very convinced of what he thinks is going to win. And he's just going to keep doing the same thing over and over until it does. And, that may be why he lost in 2020. Obviously, it's still a very close race. I mean, Harris has pulled ahead in most polls, but only by a point or two. And so anything could happen. It's still as likely that he wins as that she wins. But we don't see from Trump any kind of a desire to really reach out to people who are not already convinced. He thinks that he's got this in the bag if he just gets his people out. That's always been his theory. That's how he acted as president, that his supporters were the only ones that mattered. He didn't have to really reach out to anybody else. And that's how he's going to campaign.
Paul, just very quickly here, when it comes to Elon Musk, what did he have to gain from this conversation?
It's a little hard to tell what his own motivations are. He has really turned into a kind of toxic right-wing troll. He's moved farther and farther to the right. If you look at what he posts on X, it's all, great replacement, racist conspiracy theories, really just getting uglier and uglier. And maybe it's something to do with, when you're the richest person on earth, you live in this strange kind of self-reinforcing bubble where nobody ever tells you that you need to dial it back. But he has become just, worse and worse as a force in society. And, he bought this this really important social media platform and turned it, frankly, into a sewer. And if you go there, it is full of neo-Nazis and all kinds of other right-wing extremists. And he thinks things are just going great. And it's becoming less and less important as more people abandon it. And his public profile is, he's not getting the kind of admiration that he used to. And Tesla has all kinds of problems with the reliability of his cars. And so that's not going to turn him into a force for good. I think he's only going to become more what he has become.
Paul, great to get your insights and perspective on last night's conversation and the state of the campaign and whatnot as well. Thanks so much for your time.
My pleasure. Thanks.
That's Paul Waldman. He's a columnist at MSNBC, and he's in Washington, D.C.